What's going on, guys? Vulkan here, and today we're going to take a step back and look at the big picture for New World. And we're going to take an inventory of where the game needs to make improvements once launch hits. So there isn't enough time between now and release to overhaul or make vast improvements to these systems, but I do hope to see at least some of these touched within the first year. So to get things started, I want to talk about one of the biggest pain points that's completely reverberating throughout the community, and that's the questing structure. So right now, New World has 5 ways to level your character. You have town projects, faction missions, side quests, main quests, and then miscellaneous. And this is like passive XP gain through crafting, gathering, and kind of those small sources that add up over time. Now, the problem here is that town projects give the most experience, and this is the easiest way to level, but these and faction missions are also incredibly boring. They don't offer exciting gameplay, memorable moments, or a worthwhile gaming experience. They only add to the grind, and because of this, I think lots of players won't make it to level cap because of how tedious and task-based things are. So how do we fix it? Well, I don't think the right move would be to eliminate or nerf the experience gain from town projects, but I do think raising the experience gain of main quests and side quests would be a fantastic place to start. Because there were so many times when I would complete a town project in half the time of a main quest and make double the experience, which is a problem. Now, I understand the main draw for the main storyline and side quests is that you're going to unlock new systems, or you're going to upgrade your camp. But tacking on an XP value that complements how big of a milestone those are would go a long way with players. I mean, it felt weird cooking up some juice samples and getting 2,400 experience, while my main quest gave me 750 experience for a bigger time investment. It's just simply unbalanced right now and not something that is worthwhile. Now, part 2 here is that the experience gain for dungeons and PvPs is low. These are huge time sinks for players, and honestly, some people would love just to chain dungeons to level or go hunt down other players, engage almost exclusively in PvP. But unfortunately, in dungeons, you don't get hardly any experience for completing them. And PvP also gives very minor gains as well. And this is a huge misstep in my opinion. If you take a look at competing MMORPGs out there, you're going to see that they give some great experience gains to players for completing those activities. Now, lastly, I would like to see some better town projects overall, including some elite or legendary ones that sometimes spawn. Now, these elite or legendary projects could be something like finishing a dungeon under a certain time limit, or not using potions, or something interesting. Or maybe it's hunting down a certain world boss, because right now, the classic hunt and kill X number of creatures, craft certain things, gather a certain number of things. I mean, it's fine to start, but as you get higher in levels and reach new zones, these get old incredibly fast, and they need to become more complex in order to keep players' attentions. So overall, really, I mean, the whole questing structure needs to be improved upon. It's better than it was last time in our preview, but it's still not quite there. So let's go ahead and move into our next issue, and that's faction imbalance. So I want to ask you guys a question. So what happens if a server coordinates and goes all Covenant or all Syndicate and then controls everything? In beta, we had a situation where a massive guild just rolled everyone and everything overnight and then held all of the zones throughout the beta. And they jacked up taxes, and it really just kind of ruined the experience for some people. And the thing is, they just had far more numbers than any other faction, and there wasn't really anything anybody could do about it. And this is an issue that's as old as time when it comes to MMOs. You have servers in World of Warcraft known for being Horde only or Alliance only. Then you have websites created that track the population of each servers to help you know what you're signing up for. I know I had a friend of mine, we were trying to pick a new server, and he went out and looked, okay, this server is all Horde, this server is all Alliance, this one has a decent balance, so we ended up going there. And unfortunately, there really isn't a way to combat this unless you apply faction caps. So I do have a side story to help kind of explain this a little bit. So I used to have a job in IT, and I worked at this global company, and we were looking to hire some talent from Singapore. And when I was looking over the applications, there was a ton of extra information on there that we legally couldn't ask for in the United States. I'm talking about people listing their religion, their race, political party, all of that type of stuff. And when I asked my HR director about that and why that information was on there, he told me that Singapore has what's known as balanced neighborhoods. And this is where they keep a running census of what type of people live here. And this means that they will eventually reach a point where they can no longer accept Christians, Buddhists, Chinese, Caucasian, etc. And they do this to ensure that no neighborhood becomes a slum or a certain demographic ends up dominating an area or is forced into an area. Essentially, it helps create a balance across all of Singapore and encourages fairer living. So anyway, why am I telling you this, right? Well, what if New World were to enact something similar? When you try to join a server, it gives a warning that Syndicate is full, and that if you want to join, you can, but you will need to either be Covenant or Marauders at this time to help bump those numbers up. Then once your 120 days are up, you can check the census again and see if there's room for you to join a previously full faction. This would help reduce the chance of a single faction rolling a server, and it would also encourage more PvP because population would be more balanced and there would be a lot more opportunities for those type of things. So this is just a thought, curious what you guys think, but this kind of popped into my head when I first started going through this. I was like, we kind of have this in the real world and it could apply directly to this. So let's go ahead and move on to my next point, and that one dovetails perfectly into our last one. So what happens if settlements are held on to forever? So going back into the preview and the beta, there were some mega guilds out there with hundreds of members to help protect or take settlements around the clock. They were always on the offensive or on the defensive. And one issue that I saw in both beta and can see happening at launch is that a guild whose numbers vastly outmatch any competitor just grabbing up the majority of all the settlements and holding on to them indefinitely. I mean, they have the numbers, they have the resources, they can hold out forever. The only way I can see this being avoided is if another guild who is super good at PvP just walks in and rolls them to take a settlement. But then that brings up the question, for how long? I mean, using their numbers, they can easily contest that settlement pretty quick and then declare war again, this time maybe in the middle of the night where there aren't enough players online to defend from that opposing faction. It just seems like an easily exploitable setup as it stands right now. And I'm curious if there needs to be like a reset at some point to encourage more settlement rushes like there will be at launch. Maybe a settlement can be overthrown by invasion enemies and then needs to be recaptured by defeating the world boss that stands in the middle. This could encourage some PvP, some more PvE, and help keep things somewhat fresh. So this might be a problem that pops up way down the road, but still it's something that we need to consider and think about. Now, our next point is one that doesn't really affect us in the early game, but it is a pain point in the late game, and that's compass clutter. Now, this one, like I said, doesn't really affect players right at the beginning, right? When they first start out, you're only viewing a few different things. But as you get higher in your trade skills and start tracking more resources, your compass gets very busy very quickly. Because when you first unlock tracking, you're going to see things like rabbits and turkeys, but then you're going to start seeing some harvesting nodes and then mining deposits. But as you progress, those things never disappear, and you start tracking more and more and more, and this continues to increase until a point where your compass is completely flooded. It becomes difficult to track anything, and tracking loses its value. So I propose an incredibly easy change. Just add a checkbox next to the items that you want to track on your compass, and that's it. This allows the players to track things that are valuable to them and not every single thing under the sun. So very simple thing here, but this is an issue. And I see people talk about it on Reddit quite often. And to kind of build off of that tracking point, let's go ahead and talk about our next issue. So if I had $1 for every single time I saw the phrase, "What does it look like?" in chat, I would have been able to retire halfway through the beta. I mean, players were constantly asking two questions. Where do I find hemp? To which players would answer, oh, in the grasslands. Open your map, check your tracking, your resource locations, and then find the grasslands. Then the follow-up question was always, well, what does hemp look like? And this was a huge question that was asked every single day up until the beta ended multiple times a day. And whenever somebody asked that, I would comment back and tell them, you can actually find an image of hemp in your trade skills under harvesting, and that helped them out immensely. They knew immediately what they were looking for. So my thought is, why not have like a journal or a sketchbook of drawings for each resource to give people an idea of what they're looking for? It doesn't have to be anything fancy, and honestly, that would fit the overall kind of shipwreck theme of having a journal of scribbled drawings and, anatomy and things like that for all the things that you're running into. So I threw this image together in about 10 minutes to kind of show what I'm talking about. I think something like this would be insanely helpful for helping those early folks understand what they're looking for. Because the thing is, once you see it once, you understand what it looks like and what you need to keep an eye out for. And being able to pick it out becomes extremely easy. Okay, so the next thing I want to touch on is the respawn rates and enemy density, specifically looking at the Inquisitors in the Cathedral Graveyard in Brightwood. So in Brightwood, I ran into this huge wall. I was trying to complete a main mission, and there were tons of players just kind of sitting around waiting for you heard it, 3 NPCs to spawn, and each player needed 6 to complete this quest. Now the problem is, there are thresholds for tagging. You do need to deal a certain amount of damage for the tag to apply, and since these enemies die so quickly because, you know, they're basically getting bombarded by 20 players, you need to either camp out on one of the spawns and kill them one at a time, or equip some sort of ranged weapon and hope you can dish out enough damage for the tag to count. And now part 2 of that problem is that these enemies respawn every 5 to 10 minutes, turning this quest from a 10-minute task into a 30-minute or more endurance test. And that's a problem. Now this is copy pasted all over the game. You have these enemies that you need to kill, and they're very limited in quantity and have a very long respawn timer. And I think for these main quests, faction quests, town projects, New World needs to cut the respawn timer in half and at least double the density in those areas, because it was a problem. Now I got to meet a lot of really cool people, I got to talk with them and everything like that while I was just waiting around, but at the same time, I'm trying to get these things done. I'm trying to move on to the next thing, and if I have to sit and wait, it reminded me of vanilla World of Warcraft, not in a good way, so I do think that New World really needs to take a look at these particular areas. Now, the last thing I want to touch on is more of a long-term issue, and this happens once players are settled in and once they've reached the level cap. And I'm talking about the lack of small-scale PvP content and lack of large-scale PvE content like raids. And this was another big question that I saw fairly often in chat. It was PvP players asking if there was an arena or a way to host smaller PvP battles. And players were looking to team up with friends to run doubles or, you know, form a small team in an arena format. And they were looking for something larger than duels, but less than huge wars, right? And I know this was included in the leaks, and hopefully it ends up making it into the game sooner than later, but a PvP arena would do extremely well. And to build on that, another leaked thing was the tournaments, which would kind of be interesting, but we talked about that in my last video, but those are also coming as well. Now for PvE, it's the opposite side of the fence. Dungeons are fun, but having larger 10-man raids would be incredibly fun to do. I know we have the actual PvE arenas like the Spriggan, but those are restricted to, again, 5 players. Now, you can get a bunch of people together to go hunt down world bosses, but these are incredibly chaotic, they're messy, hardly organized. I would love to see a 10-man excursion where we raid an undead citadel or some supernatural fortress to take care of like a story boss. And I think something like this would be really, really exciting. Players would like it and they would respond well to it. So guys, that is it. Those are the 7 big issues I can see being a problem for New World between launch and post-launch. I mean, the game is set up to be fantastic. It has a solid foundation. Most people love it or at least enjoy it. And now we just need to have the developers build on it and then reinforce some of those weak points that we talked about in the video. The big takeaway here is that these issues aren't game-breaking and they're not hard to fix. And I'm sure they're going to be improved, but when? That is the million-dollar question. Will they fix them too late? Will it be a couple years down the road? Will it be with the new expansion? Who knows when it's going to happen? I'm just hoping that it's sooner than later. So what do you guys think? Are these issues that you noticed while playing? Did you find something else that wasn't listed here? Let me know in the comment section below. But as always, thank you guys so much for the support. This has been Vulkan, and I'll talk to you guys next time.